Little encouragement, and we're off.
Look at that drop off. What a nice day.
What a nice day. It ain't over yet.
Alright, here's my fear. Headwind gets worse, or we get to the airport for some reason and can't get in.
We did almost bust airspace right there. I said, whoop, shit. We're not talking to them. Magoo approach, Skyhawk 80991. Got a quick question for you if you got time.
I'm Josh, a pilot and flight instructor with a passion for the sky, sharing it with those around me and using it to see the world from a new perspective. Flying can seem super complex, but I've made it my mission to showcase safe practices while enjoying the beauty this world has to offer. Subscribe to climb into the cockpit on future adventures. This is Aviation 101.
80991, Addison Ground, clear to Hotel Yankee India Airport via on departure flight, runway heading, expect radar vector 049er departure.
Catalina traffic, 6098 November, on the runway, 22, taking off straight, out departure, Catalina traffic.
Chelsea and I have just departed from the Catalina Island Airport after a day of hanging out and exploring Avalon. In the previous episode, we talked about the top 5 things I think all pilots should know before flying into this epic airport, including one of the rules that I didn't do my homework on and actually broke coming into the airport. Our ground logistics, the places we ate, the views, and the vibes are all covered in a feature-length edit of our entire day. It's an hour-long cinematic epic that's available on Cockpit Club for premium members. That's where you can sign up to support the channel and get access to exclusive content, and more of that is coming soon to aviation101.com/cockpitclub. In this episode, our day in this magical place is complete, but the real challenges we're going to face are about to take shape on our horizon.
There's Avalon.
Is this a date?
Yeah. One big date. Alright, we're scooting away from the island. I'm going to start climbing.
Alright, we are headed to the LA Special Flight Rule area.
And we've got the tax supplement up, and we have 3 copies of it on board.
What a nice day.
What a nice day. It ain't over yet, but got some challenges to conquer. Alright, 4,500 verified. I see it on both altimeters, 1201 on the squawk, 28.55 on the frequency, lights on.
LA Special Flight Rules traffic, Skyhawk 80991, 4,500 south to north, transitioning, we're just a beam torrent. LA Special Flight Rules traffic.
Point it straight at LAX.
2 videos ago, we covered all that's entailed in crossing over LAX via the LA Special Flight Rules Area procedure. It's incredibly easy to do, but there are strict rules you need to follow in order for it to be safe. One of the busiest airports in the world will be right under your landing gear. To cross, the only radio work that's required is listening to and announcing over the area's common traffic advisory frequency. The position reports are the same structure as announcing in the pattern at your local airport.
LA Special Flight Rules traffic, Skyhawk 80991, 4,500 over the Imperial Highway, transitioning to the north. LA Special Flight Rules traffic.
This type of position report over a common traffic advisory frequency is really common and not just used in the airport traffic pattern. It's used here over the top of LAX, it's used in the special airspace over the Grand Canyon or over the Hudson Corridor in front of New York City. It all follows the same structure. When someone is first learning how to fly, talking on the radios I think is the most challenging thing to teach, especially trying to figure out radio calls in a busy, stressful cockpit. But a company called Plain English told me about their software at AirVenture last year, and we now work together to spread word about the best radio training tool I've ever seen. You can use code AVIATION101 for 10% off when you sign up for the RSIM app. It's an aviation radio simulator made by Plain English. It's like a language learning app, but for pilots. You can run through drills and scenarios, reply to ATC instructions, or request things from ATC, and the app will listen to your voice and grade your phrasing, diction, and speed. It's an amazing tool, and you can sharpen your radio skills anywhere, anytime, so that your radio work in the busy cockpit environment will feel so much more confident. Big thanks to Plain English for sponsoring Aviation 101, and I'm so glad they reached out and told me about their app, and I want to share it with all of you to improve all-around proficiency in general aviation. Don't forget to use code AVIATION101 for 10% off RSIM.
Approach Skywest 5691, 7,700, descending 7,000.
This is SoCal approach.
2691, Southwest approach. Should maintain 4,000, clear for the ILS to the runway 8.
Yeah, look at that sunset.
Descend to 4,000, clear for the ILS to the runway 8, Skywest 5691.
Request.
Skyhawk 80991, we're 4,500. We just exited the LA Cifra, and we'd like to pick up VFR flight following to Santa Maria, Sierra Mike X-ray.
Say again, aircraft type.
Skyhawk 172 for 80991.
Remember, 991, squawk 4656, your radar contact 12 miles south of Venice, 4,500.
The headwind is going up like a knot every 100 feet. And we're already not going to make it on fuel right now. It says we will have a 30 knot headwind.
Southwest 4179, 9,200, it's going to be the Jenny 5, we got here.
Southwest 4179, SoCal, the altimeter 3007. And did you want the RNAV Yankee?
The RNAV Yankee from Wabbit would be great.
Southwest 4179, descend for the Bravo, cleared for the RNAV Yankee runway 8.
I mean, that's a direct 30 knot headwind.
31 to a visual turn, left heading of 360.
35 knots.
4Y60 Venice, hour 19.
36 knots.
19.3, where was it?
Our range
37
is
knots.
shrinking.
Oh yeah.
Ray 0991, contact Los Angeles Center on 135.5.
135.5, 80991. Los Angeles Center, Skyhawk 80991, 6,500. We're going to level off here instead of the requested 8,500 VFR.
Number 80991, LA Center, Roger, San Mario, altimeter 3010, and I'm sorry, Mr. Alpha, you said you're going to level off at 6,500 instead of 8,500?
3010 and affirmative, 65 instead of 85.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Our next challenge in getting home is starting to make itself apparent to us. The headwind is hellacious up here, and that was not what I had seen in the winds aloft forecast. We're on the other side of LAX, now turning directly toward our destination, which is giving us close to a 40 knot headwind. And the higher we climb to clear the mountains, the worse it gets. This headwind is dramatically slowing us down, and we're like a fish trying to swim upstream in a raging river. And it requires more fuel to go the same distance. On top of that, it's getting dark, and we have a lot of mountains to cross in this single-engine airplane. If we divert for fuel, that means we'll be taking off and trying to out-climb terrain when it is totally dark, not twilight, totally night. We're both getting that gut feeling of uncertainty about how this is going to pan out.
Yeah, 5823, contact SoCal approach 128.5, good day.
Alright, here's my fear. Headwind gets worse, or we get to the airport for some reason and can't get in.
3007.
Because look at this cloud stuff. What if the headwind gets worse? What if we have to do a go-around?
Number 991, contact Magoo approach 128.65, good day.
2865, 80991, good day. Approach Skyhawk 80991, 6,500.
For 80991, Magoo approach, Magoo altimeter 3007.
3007, 80991.
We're faced with a decision here. If we continue on to Santa Maria, the Garmin engine monitor says, based on our current ground speed and fuel burn, that we'll land with right at 45 minutes of fuel reserve, which is the legal minimum for night flying. Not to mention, that's 15 minutes less than my own personal minimum for any flight. And Chelsea just made a good point. If we continue to Santa Maria, even if that 45-minute reserve holds true, it leaves us no buffer if something else goes wrong. SiriusXM is predicting low IFR conditions later into the night. But what if that marine layer shows up early and covers up the entire valley like it usually does on these humid nights? It'll be totally dark, low clouds under us, and not enough fuel to divert to a clear airport. That's the type of scenario that pilots have nightmares about, and it sounds just like a fatal NTSB report in the making.
Yeah, we're like milking it. For everything we have 40 knots straight in the face. We have to land at Camarillo. That's required. Alright, we're diverting. Camarillo. Direct, we're going to put it in heading for now. And let them know.
47 Charlie, contact SoCal approach 134.2.
Approach Skyhawk 80-991. We've got about a 40 knot headwind. We're going to divert here to Camarillo for some fuel.
991, Roger, I'll show it for you. Altitude, your discretion, and information Romeo current landing runway 26.
We'll get Romeo and expect 26, 80-991, thanks. And we have the airport in sight.
Roger that.
Service, crane 1.3 miles northeast, Camarillo, 140 feet, AGL. Additional crane 3.4 miles east.
When you're up there in the cockpit, at any given moment, your decisions fall into one of two categories. Either you're making a decision that will be revered after the flight, like, man, that was a good judgment call, I'm glad you played it safe. Or you're making a decision that people will read about after the accident thinking, man, why did they not just make the decision to divert? So what if it cost them 45 minutes? They would be alive. Now I know that seems overly dark and morbid, but a benign situation can turn into a life or death situation if you're not paying attention to all possible outcomes, good and bad. You have to consider the worst case scenario every time, and if you make your decisions based on that assumption, you dramatically improve your margin of safety on every single flight. Luck has no place in the aeronautical decision-making process, so make the judgment calls that will lead you and your passengers closer to safety, not disaster. Your family wants you to be alive when you come home.
1100's pattern altitude.
November 991, contact Camarillo Tower 128.2.
28-2, good night, 80-991. Camarillo Tower, Skyhawk 80-991, 5,600 descending with Romeo.
November 80-991, Camarillo Tower, make straight on runway 26, follow RV, 7 mile final, number 3, runway 26, go to land.
Brakes feel good, taxi lights, landing light on, everything. Aero minimums, don't need them, autopilot's off, mixture. I'm rolling it in, enriching carb heat. Go ahead and get it on, fuel selectors on both. Flaps waiting on the wide arc and VREF 60 knots, pre-landing checklist complete. Inside 85, 1000, 1000, 1000, flaps set 10. Carb heat's coming in, ready for a go around. 1000, 1000. 1000, flap set 20, power to idle.
Good job.
Thank you.
November 991, left on Charlie, kind of ground 28.
Left of Charlie over to ground. Good night, 0991.
Good night, see ya.
Quick fuel stop here at the Camarillo airport. It would have been legal, but barely legal if we would have continued to Santa Maria. I mean, we would have, the avionics at the current headwind, that's assuming it doesn't get worse, at the current headwind, we would have landed with exactly 45 minutes of fuel remaining at night, which is the minimum for night VFR operations. We like to land with at least an hour of fuel left.
When you have the option to stop and you're already cutting it that close with the unknowns and we're pushing into darkness, even though we wanted to get back right at twilight, which basically we would have.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it. And just for peace of mind and making sure that, you know, you are making the judgment calls that go beyond just the legal requirements.
When you get that inkling that you could be doing this in a safer way, go with your gut, trust your gut, and just make the decision that may not be the easier thing to do, but it's going to be the safer, more conservative thing to do. Be conservative, be safe, trust your gut. When that little voice inside your head starts saying, there's a better way to do this, there's a safer way to do this, but it's going to require more time, that's better than being dead on the side of a mountain. We eliminated that risk. Fuel is now no longer a problem. We are topped off. And we're going to continue. You ready?
Yeah,
all right.
Let's go.
Oil pressure and cylinders look great, 45 knots. Better than 2300, there's 55, 60. Rotate.
November 991, you can contact Point Magoo on 124.7 for flight following frequency change for a CF.
24-7 and have a good night, 0991. Magoo approach, Skyhawk 80-991, just off Camarillo, climbing through 1000, request VFR flight following 8500 to Santa Maria, Sierra Mike X-ray.
991, squawk 4752.
4752 for 80-991.
I'm thinking about a few things here climbing off Camarillo in the dark. There's terrain out there beyond the city lights. Do we need to steer around it, or do we have the climb performance to keep climbing up and over it? Where are we going to land if the engine fails? How's it even running? In all of this foresight that's occupying my mind, I let something slip that should have been ironed out before we even left the ground.
Center 991, radar contact 3 west of Camarillo, 1700. We go altimeter 3007.
Everything checked, 3007, 80901.
We did almost bust airspace right there. Oxnard Delta. See? I said, whoop. We're not talking to them.
Climbing off Camarillo, I was so focused on the engine's performance and steering clear of the invisible terrain that I wasn't paying attention to airspace. I got complacent by flying in and out of Delta airspace that are all by themselves, just climb out and depart the area. Right next to Camarillo is the Oxnard Delta airspace, and as soon as I noticed that it literally is up against the Camarillo Delta, I made an immediate turn to the right to avoid their airspace. We'd already gotten radar contact from Point Magoo approach, but we're just on VFR flight following. I wasn't sure if Magoo had talked to Oxnard Tower about us transitioning because it's a quiet night or what, so I asked.
Magoo approach, Skyhawk 80901. Got a quick question for you if you got time.
991, go ahead.
80901. Off Camarillo there, we avoided the Oxnard airspace. We took a turn to the north and then now we're on course. Just curious though, talking to you and getting a squawk from you, would that have authorized us to go through Oxnard, or do we need to talk to their tower for that?
Center 991, you would need to talk to the tower for that.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't know if we unnecessarily avoided their airspace or not. I appreciate the insight.
All right.
Now granted, we would have only like clipped their airspace because, you know, I don't even know how high we were when I made that turn. We might have been above Oxnard. I'd have to go back and look at the flight track.
991, just to clarify, when you are transitioning, let's say you're on a VFR practice approach to Oxnard or to Camarillo, runway 8 or IFR approach inbound, we get those point outs for you to transition through the Class Delta. But if you're on a 1200 code, or if you're just local maneuvers, you would have to call the tower for that transition.
Okay, roger that. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Ultimately, when you're VFR, you are responsible for your own navigation. That includes seeing and avoiding other traffic and navigating around airspace you don't have permission to be in yet. He did say that if we were IFR, or we were doing a practice approach into Camarillo, for example, he'd coordinate with Oxnard Tower so we don't have to break off the approach to avoid it. But simple VFR flight following, which is the service we're now on with Magoo Approach, is great for having another watchful set of eyes to help you with traffic, weather, or anything else you may need during the flight. But merely being on flight following is not a hall pass to cut through any airspace. I know that, and that's why I immediately turned when I noticed that airspace and then humbly asked ATC if what I did was necessary. I'm glad to hear I made the right decision, but I'm not happy that it was sheer luck that caught it just in time. I know better than that, and I should have briefed the climb more thoroughly before we took off. If I did accidentally fly into the Oxnard Delta, it would have been a phone number exchange over the frequency and a phone call with the tower on the ground. Ultimately, a well-deserved slap on the wrist, assuming I didn't put another aircraft in danger. This is a good lesson for me in rushing the departure briefing and letting complacency get too close to biting me.
I see city lights, and then I see darkness, and I see a lit tower on top of the peak underneath us.
November 991, contact LA Center 135.5.
135.5, 80901, good night.
Despite the striking beauty of the shimmering lights of the California coastline, I don't really like this situation. We're flying over terrain right now that I know, having seen it in the daytime, is very unforgiving. There's not very many roads or flat valleys down there, so our only saving grace if our one and only engine fails is the fact that the coastline is within our glide range. And for about 10 minutes, the Santa Barbara airport will be a safe option to glide to, followed by Santa Ynez. I love night flying. It's beautiful. The weather is calm, the city lights look amazing, the radio is quiet. It's all serene and peaceful. Until you truly think about what you're gonna do if your one and only engine loses power. Your options of places to make a forced landing are dramatically reduced when you can't see the unlit ground beneath you. not to mention unlit mountains. I'm not saying you shouldn't fly a single engine at night, I just recommend thinking twice about your backup plan if the worst happens. You don't want to realize you've flown yourself into a corner when it's too late to do anything about it.
Sky 991, the helicopter is 11 o'clock, 3 miles left turn to the southeast, 2,000 feet indicated.
80-991, we have that helicopter traffic in sight, and we are coming up on a 4.5 mile final.
Sky 991, thanks for that. Wind 2909, runway 30, clear land.
Clear to land will be a full stop, 80-991, thanks.
Fuel selector is indeed on both flaps set as required. We're waiting on the wide arc, which is coming in now, and VREF 60 knots, pre-landing checklist complete. 500, 85 knots, 1000, 1000, 1000, flap set 10 degrees. Coming through the glide path. Power to idle. Aiming at the numbers. Ooh, little slide.
She's all covered up. Ready for our next adventure. It was a good day.
Let's go home.
Let's go home. Catalina Island is a must-see destination I recommend to all pilots, and California in general for that matter. We love filming our travels like this to share the places we get to see in all of its cinematic beauty. But what I love just as much is extracting the little golden lessons that come from each and every flight. I learn something new every time I strap into an aircraft, and as a flight instructor with a passion for improving, I feel it's my duty to share these lessons with all of you in hopes that I can make my humble contribution to this world we call general aviation. In the next episode, Chelsea and I will depart Santa Maria on yet another quintessential California adventure. We're invited to land at a private strip in the mountains and experience one of the things Californians do best. But the flight in and the flight out hold some dangers and lessons that are, as always, worth mentioning. If you'd like to see the hour-long vlog of our entire trip to Catalina, Avalon, and back, you can support the channel and get access to that exclusive content all on Cockpit Club. Link is down in the description. Be sure to give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you haven't, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss those upcoming videos. Until next time, you know the drill. I want you to stay happy and healthy, stay current in your flying, but most importantly, stay proficient. We'll see you in the next video right here on the beautiful California coast. Fly safe.